What if I told you that the secret to a garden overflowing with color isn't more work, but less? That the plants spreading fastest across your beds could be the very ones giving you the most spectacular show from spring's first thaw through autumn's final frost? Most gardeners chase after rare specimens and fussy hybrids, but the real champions are those perennials that multiply, spread, and fill every gap with life. Before we dive into these garden superstars, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. These plants are going to change how you think about filling space in your yard. Hey there, garden friends. I'm so glad you're here today because we're talking about something that solves one of the biggest frustrations in American gardening: empty spots that need constant attention. If you enjoy learning about plants that practically grow themselves while giving you endless color, stick around and consider giving this video a thumbs up. It helps more people discover these incredible perennials. Let's talk about spreading perennials for a moment, because there's a difference between aggressive and enthusiastic. The plants we're covering today are vigorous growers that fill space beautifully without becoming nightmares. They're the ones that make your neighbors stop and ask what that gorgeous wave of purple or gold is spilling over your walkway. Picture yourself in early June, stepping outside with your morning coffee, and instead of seeing mulch and a few struggling plants, you see drifts of blooms moving in the breeze. That's what these perennials deliver, and they do it year after year with minimal effort on your part. First up is catmint, and if you've never grown it, you're missing out on one of the most reliable performers in American gardens. This plant creates soft mounds of gray-green foliage topped with lavender-blue flower spikes that bloom from late spring clear through summer. And if you shear it back after the first flush, it'll rebloom in fall. Catmint spreads steadily outward, creating those beautiful billowing clouds that soften hard edges along pathways or stone walls. It thrives in full sun and handles heat like a champion, whether you're gardening in Virginia or Texas, and it survives harsh winters in places like Michigan without protection. The beauty of catmint is how forgiving it is. Planted in average soil and barely water it once established. It doesn't demand fertilizer or fussing. Pollinators adore it, so expect bees and butterflies constantly. One thing to remember: catmint isn't catnip, though cats do enjoy it. For spacing, plant them about 18 inches apart, and within 2 seasons, they'll grow together into a seamless border. Here's a bonus tip. Catmint's foliage is deer-resistant, and the flowers dry beautifully if you cut them at peak and hang them upside down. Have you ever tried using catmint as a filler plant between roses? Now let's shift to something completely different in texture and form: daylilies. These are the workhorses of the perennial world, and once you plant them, they'll give you decades of performance. Daylilies spread through underground rhizomes, creating ever-expanding clumps of strappy foliage and stems loaded with trumpet-shaped blooms. While each flower lasts just one day, each stem produces numerous buds that open in succession, giving you weeks of continuous color. They come in nearly every shade except true blue, from pale yellows and peachy pinks to deep burgundies and near blacks with ruffled edges or spider-shaped petals. What makes daylilies so valuable is their adaptability. They grow from Florida to Minnesota, handling humidity, heat, cold, and even poor soil. They prefer full sun for maximum blooming, but tolerate partial shade, especially in hotter climates where afternoon shade helps them. Plant them in spring or fall, spacing them about 2 feet apart, and don't bury the crown too deeply or they'll sulk. Water them regularly the first season to establish roots, then back off because they're remarkably drought-tolerant once settled. One common mistake is overwatering established daylilies in heavy clay soils. If your soil is dense, work in compost before planting to improve drainage. Here's something fascinating. Daylilies are edible. The flower buds can be stir-fried or added to salads. A single clump can expand to 3 feet across in just a few years, making them excellent for erosion control on slopes. Every 3 to 4 years, you can dig up mature clumps in early spring or fall, divide them with a sharp spade, and replant the divisions elsewhere or share them with friends. This keeps them blooming vigorously and gives you free plants. What's your favorite daylily color? And do you have a variety that's been thriving in your garden for years? Let me introduce you to Russian sage, a plant that looks delicate but has the constitution of iron. This is one of those perennials that transforms a garden from ordinary to extraordinary. Russian sage grows into a shrubby mound of silver-gray foliage with tall stems covered in tiny lavender-blue flowers from midsummer through fall. When backlit by late afternoon sun, it practically glows. The entire plant is aromatic, releasing a sharp, pleasant scent when you brush against it, and that fragrance helps deter deer and rabbits. Russian sage loves hot, dry conditions and thrives where many other perennials struggle. It's perfect for gardens across the Southwest, Great Plains, and anywhere with intense summer heat and low humidity. Once established, it needs virtually no supplemental water. Plant it in well-drained soil in full sun and resist the urge to pamper it, because too much water or rich soil makes it floppy. In late winter or early spring, cut the entire plant back to about 6 inches from the ground. This sounds drastic, but it encourages strong new growth and keeps the plant compact. If you're in a colder region, leave the stems standing through winter for structure and cut them back when you see new growth emerging at the base in spring. Does Russian sage grow in your garden, or have you been hesitant to try it? Here's a plant that might surprise you: creeping phlox. If you've ever driven through the Appalachian region in spring and seen hillsides carpeted in hot pink, white, or purple, that's creeping phlox doing what it does best. This low-growing perennial forms dense mats of needle-like evergreen foliage that disappear completely under masses of star-shaped flowers in April and May. It spreads enthusiastically by sending out stems that root where they touch soil, creating those stunning carpets that seem to flow over rocks and slopes like colorful waterfalls. Creeping phlox thrives in full sun and well-drained soil. It's incredibly cold-hardy and handles winter across most of the northern states without issue. The key to success is avoiding wet feet, especially in winter, so if you have heavy clay, plant it on a slope or raised area where water drains away. After flowering, give it a light shearing to encourage dense growth and remove spent blooms. This plant is perfect for rock gardens, along the tops of retaining walls, or cascading over the edges of raised beds. One mistake people make is planting it in shade, where it becomes leggy and blooms poorly. Give it sun, and it'll reward you with a show that stops traffic. Here's a fun fact. Creeping phlox is native to the eastern United States, so you're supporting local ecosystems while creating beauty. Have you ever considered using creeping phlox as a lawn alternative in small areas? Now let's talk about something that brings texture and movement to the garden. Ornamental grasses, specifically fountain grass. These perennials create fountain-like clumps of arching foliage topped with fuzzy bottle-brush-like plumes that dance with every breeze. They spread slowly but steadily, and over time, a single clump becomes a dramatic focal point that looks incredible from summer through winter, when the dried foliage catches frost and snow. Fountain grass loves heat and sun. It's practically drought-proof once established, making it ideal for water-wise gardens across the South and West. Planted in spring after the last frost, spacing clumps about 2 to 3 feet apart depending on the variety. The foliage emerges green in spring, and many varieties develop burgundy or bronze tones as summer progresses. The plumes appear in late summer and persist through fall, providing food for songbirds. In late winter or early spring, cut the entire clump back to about 4 inches from the ground before new growth starts. This prevents the center from dying out and keeps the plant looking fresh. One tip: if you're in the southeast, check whether the variety you're planting is sterile, because some types can self-seed aggressively in warmer climates. Stick with named cultivars like Hameln, which are clump-forming and well-behaved. Does your garden have grasses, or is this something you've been wanting to try? Let me share something that'll change how you think about ground covers. Ajuga, also known as bugleweed. This tough little perennial forms dense mats of glossy leaves that can be green, burgundy, or variegated, depending on the variety. In spring, it sends up short spikes of blue, purple, or white flowers that pollinators absolutely adore. Ajuga spreads by stolons, those horizontal stems that root as they go, and it fills space faster than almost any other perennial ground cover. Ajuga works beautifully in shade or partial sun, which makes it perfect for those tricky spots under trees where grass won't grow. It tolerates foot traffic reasonably well, so you can use it between stepping stones or in pathways that don't get heavy use. Planted in spring or fall, spacing plants about 6 to 12 inches apart, and within one season, they'll knit together into a solid carpet. Water regularly the first year, then it becomes quite drought tolerant. One thing to watch is that Ajuga can be aggressive in ideal conditions, so avoid planting it near delicate perennials that might get smothered. It's best used in areas where you want solid coverage and don't mind it spreading. The foliage looks good year-round in milder climates, and even where winters are harsh, it bounces back quickly in spring. Which ground cover has worked best in your shady spots? Here's one I saved because it surprised me more than any other: Coreopsis, specifically the threadleaf varieties. These cheerful perennials produce masses of golden yellow daisy-like flowers from early summer straight through fall, if you deadhead them occasionally. The foliage is fine and feathery, giving the plant an airy, delicate appearance that contrasts beautifully with bolder perennials. Coreopsis spreads moderately, forming clumps that expand each year, and it self-seeds gently without becoming invasive, giving you volunteer seedlings that you can transplant or share. Threadleaf Coreopsis thrives in full sun and average to poor soil. It actually blooms better in lean soil because rich soil makes it grow too lush and flop over. It's incredibly heat and drought tolerant, making it a star performer in southern gardens and anywhere with hot, dry summers. Planted in spring, spacing them about 12 to 18 inches apart. Deadhead spent flowers every few weeks to keep new blooms coming, or if you don't have time, Shear the entire plant back by 1/3 in midsummer and it'll flush with fresh flowers. Coreopsis is native to the United States, so it supports local pollinators and requires minimal care once established. One surprising benefit is how long the flowers last in bouquets, making it excellent for cutting gardens. This plant proves that native doesn't mean boring. Have you grown Coreopsis, and did you find it as carefree as I do? So there you have it. Catmint, with its cooling lavender haze, daylilies offering endless variety, Russian sage glowing in the summer heat, creeping phlox painting hillsides, fountain grass adding movement, ajuga carpeting shade, and Coreopsis bringing sunshine from June to frost. These perennials spread with enthusiasm, fill empty spaces with life, and deliver color season after season without demanding hours of your time. They're the plants that make American gardens look abundant and established even in their second or third year. And they prove that the best gardening is often about working with nature's generosity, rather than against it. Gardening teaches us patience, but it also rewards us with moments of pure abundance when we choose the right plants. These spreading perennials are investments that multiply their value every year, giving you more beauty, more blooms, and more opportunities to share divisions with friends and neighbors. That's the kind of gardening that builds community and creates landscapes that feel alive and welcoming. So tell me, which of these fast spreaders are you most excited to add to your garden this season? And do you have a favorite vigorous perennial that I didn't mention today? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I love hearing about what's thriving in gardens across the country. And if you found this helpful, clicking that subscribe button and turning on notifications means you'll catch every new video. Happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next one.